Welcome back to another Mackem in the Middle podcast. My name is Kyle. Obviously, sound a little bit different than Josh, the usual host. But Josh told me a couple weeks ago that if Big Tony goes, then he goes, and so he's gone, and has asked me to carry on the podcast instead. So with Tony Mowbray, it goes Josh as well. But no, he'll be back. He'll be back in a couple weeks. So he's asked me to kind of pick it up and carry it on. And what a good time to do so, because my God, it's never a dull moment supporting this club. But regardless, we have a Sunderland victory to talk about as the Man City game pops up in the background for me. Let me mute that. But yeah, we have a 2-1 victory to discuss. 3 points to the good. We have 2 goals coming from Sunderland, one from Dan Ballard in the 69th minute, and another one from Dan Neal in the 84th. West Brom was able to claw one back in the 86th via Thomas Asante to make it, a little bit more nervy than it had to be. But nonetheless, the 3 points put Sunderland back into the playoff picture, currently in 6th place, I believe. But joining me today are 2 very carefully selected gentlemen. One will be joining us shortly, but both go by the same name as 2 goal scorers. So we have Dan and Dan here to celebrate the 2 goals from Dan Neal and Dan Ballard. So Daniel Mannix is here with me now. So Dan, how are we doing out there in Ireland? We were chatting it up a little bit, but how are things for you out there? And
very good. Can't complain. Great win. We played very well. Delighted with the performance. But one thing I do want to mention right off the bat is the standard of refereeing is just absolutely atrocious. I know it's been said an awful lot on other Sunderland podcasts, and I actually listened to a West Brom one as well. They're fuming too, because obviously we'll get into it. Ballard scored, but they think, or it's an opinion that he may have received a red card before the goal, or should have received a red card before the goal. We'll get into that. So yeah, just to highlight the standard of refereeing in the Championship is, if anything, getting worse. It's never been great, but I think we often say it after a loss that decisions don't go our way. So I'm saying it after a win now, just to show that it's not a biased thing. The referee was bad, but yeah, I'm very good. Good to be on, and I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll back it up a little bit, because it can never just be a normal week for this club, can it? It's something ever since I started following. I've only about 5 years into it now, and it feels like something new every week. And this week it was the shock departure, to some at least, of Tony Mowbray, who had been relieved of his duties, is what the club statement said, and I don't think there's a Sunderland fan out there who can really say anything negative about Tony. And so I don't really want to get really much into the decision of do you agree or disagree? Because it's happened. So it truly doesn't matter if we agree or disagree with it. But the consensus I've seen, Mannix, is that I think it was time. The time kind of felt right in a way. I think we had, kind of experienced the best of the Mowbray area. But did you feel that things started to get a little stale?
Yeah, I do. I think things were going downhill. I think Tony was really stubborn as well in his ways and his system, and that's fine because it did work and got us to the playoffs. But I think he wasn't beating a dead horse, but he kind of gotten as much out of the team as he was going to do, and it's fine to recognise that he did a really, really good job. But also maybe it was time for him to go and get some fresh blood in,
right?
Because I do think something needed to change. And now with the names that are on the table, like I'm not turning my nose up at Will still. Do you know what I mean?
Right. But will he turn? Yeah, right. Will he turn his nose up to us, so to speak?
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Mike Dodds did a great job. So
right. Listen, we'll get into the Dodds era for sure. But no, I think you nailed it right on the head, and I think it did start to kind of turn a little bit, and it's somewhat refreshing just to see both club and manager kind of, it seemed like they kind of came to mutual terms there.
Yeah.
It's nice before it turned before it turned toxic, like we've seen it happen. And but another great opportunity for Mike Dodds, who has kind of always been in the background, and he's had some really interesting, interviews. And I know a lot of people came away from his pregame interview really impressed. And you just can't help but feel so happy. And we'll get into that later, but can't feel but anything but happiness for him, and like we said, can't really feel anything but just joy for the Tony Mowbray era. And I remember it wasn't everybody's favorite, but I think the consensus, would you say, as long as you've been supporting Sunderland, has the best football you've seen come under Tony?
100% now. I haven't been supporting them. Like, I'm not 50, I'm 24, so I've only seen a few glory years when we were in the Prem. But in regards to the style of football we played, like we had that goal against QPR, or it could have been Reading. We had a really good goal, or a few really good goals. Like the pass and the fluidity of the style of play. It was just he got us playing some great stuff, and it's a long way away from what we were watching under Phil Parkinson and those dinosaurs. So yeah, he got us playing some great football, and I think he'll always be remembered fondly by any fan with half a brain. So
yeah, you're right. As we've seen, and yeah, I think it's a little different too. Just over the summer, I had the the pleasure actually to meet up with quite a few other fans, but down in New Mexico for Sunderland's American kind of preseason tour. And we got really good access to, I mean, we had Mowbray, we had Speakman, anyone just kind of walking through the crowd. It was a cool little event center, this outdoor kind of gastro pub, so to speak. And Tony Mowbray just came over to the group I was kind of hanging out with and just chatted up for about 5 minutes and just couldn't be a more genuine guy, and so you love to see that. And I think we got to experience the best of that. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and Sunderland and Speakman and KLD have a direction that they want to execute on. And I think honestly, the biggest thing is probably, I think the language gap played a very big part of the frustration from Tony Mowbray's side, because he sees what, the potential of the club and things like that. But it's got to be hard. So many different languages, cultures, everything melding into one. But that's what KLD and Speakman, that's the vision they want to go for. So you can't fault them for it. And I think both parties are going to end up being just fine. I think Mowbray will probably get picked up sooner rather than later, I would imagine, with some of the vacancies. I mean, Alec, too much of Michael Bauer's just joy, Alex Neil might be out of a job soon. There could be an opening there. So
I've never seen the group chat as active as when Stoke conceded that last minute winner there. Michael Bauer was having a field day.
I love it. But nonetheless, great victory. Wild week. I think a victory that came and we absolutely needed it. So let's dig into it. Back in the playoff spots, West Brom came to town, and sure enough, leading the line for them was former Sunderland player Josh Maja, who he was the first player when I first started following the club. He was the talisman, right? He was just scoring goals for fun. And I just remember that first transfer window and him leaving and me thinking, this shouldn't be a problem. We'll replace it. Oh, we got Will Grigg coming in. We'll be fine. But it feels like at times that Josh Badge is the last striker to score for us, even though that's obviously not true. But it's what did you think with West Brom coming into town? What were some of the things that you were feeling that we were going to set up? Did you think that Dodds was going to change it much, or did you think that we'd see mostly an unchanged side to take on West Brom?
Well, first of all, I was absolutely shocked to see Job kind of in the striker role. Just after Jude saying that that's his position, it was kind of like Mike Dodds was like, "Oh, okay."
Right.
If Jude says so, he must be right. But no, I didn't think he'd change that much. Just he didn't really have that much time on his own with them, although he is always in around the camp. So I suppose there's a bit of a difference there, there would be if it was someone completely new coming in. But no, I thought he'd set up more or less the same as Mowbray has, with maybe a few little changes, which he did. Apart from I don't think he changed much, except for we had the fullbacks overlapping there yesterday, rather than kind of Trey Hume coming and sitting in the middle of the pitch, which I think really benefited our team and our style of play. We got crosses into the box, which we don't usually do. I was delighted with how he set up, and I'm actually really happy for Mike Dodds, because it's kind of a redemption arc for him as well. Like the last time he took charge,
absolutely,
we lost to Shrewsbury, so I'm really happy for Mike Dodds because he deserves it.
And you can tell too when the the players spoke about a lot of it, but a lot of what they spoke about for him, he was in charge of like kind of the scouting and the setup and things like that, from what I understand under Tony, and he was the one who really felt like putting the teams in. And I think it was the Southampton one was the one where I think both Tony Mowbray and Dodd came together. But I remember a couple of players coming out and saying really going out of their way to mention Dodds being a big part of that setup and the reason why it was such a good game, and to talk about one of the many great games under Tony Mowbray. But This was another good one. And yeah, so according to FotMob, it showed that we were setting up in a 4-1-4-1, with, Bellingham obviously leading the line, Ekwin, that kind of sitting midfield. And I don't think it's probably accurate. I think it was more kind of what we had been setting up before, but I think you're right. I think the biggest thing that we saw was the overlapping wings. It created way more width than just playmaking opportunities. And in the first half, the players that really stood out to me were Patrick Roberts. I felt he's come under a lot of fire for better or for worse, right? I think there's some good reason there, but I think he came away, as far as the first half going. He was kind of the leading the way right out the gates. If unless I was watching a different game than you guys, but who else in that first half do you guys feel that really stuck out to us?
I'll let Dan jump in there. He's only just joined. So
that's right. We've been joined by the other Dan. So, to speak about the two Dans who scored today, we have, like we said, Daniel Mannix, and we have Daniel Stokel, the famous 12th man of Sunderland, who's just joining us now. So I think he's working on getting his microphone set up. So, but nonetheless, we'll kind of go through a little bit more of the first half. A few really big moments in the first half that stuck out, and going back to kind of the refereeing decisions to an extent. A beautiful kind of run of play resulted in a shot on goal and then a follow-up from it was Joe Bellingham, obviously right in front of goal, tapping it in, wheeling away. We thought we were kind of out the gates flying, and ref has his flag up, the sideline referee. So Stokel, what did you see on that offsides decision when you saw it in real time? Did you think it was the right call? And now that you've seen it back, are you sure? Are we sure it was the wrong call?
Yeah, 100% it was the wrong call. When I saw it first live, it was hard to tell immediately whether it was onside or offside because the angle that we were looking at wasn't the greatest. But it's one of those things that as soon as you get a replay or as soon as you get a still photo or anything, you realize how shocking of a decision it was. This point bores me because every week, it doesn't matter what team you support, you talk about how bad the referee is. You could be Leicester winning the league, running away with it, and yet the main talking point will still be referee decisions and referee performances. But yeah, that was a truly shocking goal, and for such an experienced liner as well. I don't know what he saw. Maybe the West Brom defender was just in his line of view or line of sight, but he's looking right down that line. I can't fathom how he's given that offside.
I was muted there, so I'm getting back to getting used to being a host again. But you're right. And at first, when I was watching it too, I thought, okay, maybe he thinks the other player, because I believe we had another attacking player who was definitely offsides, but
we had Patrick Roberts that was like
right,
just on
but
the
out of play, not even in the front of the goal.
Yeah.
So that was what I thought originally, but nonetheless, and at least the announcers that I had for the game, I mean, they were just letting it rip on the ref, just saying, just it essentially just robbed the goal, especially a club like us who we just been dying for goals, and especially from the quote unquote striker position, which is what Job, was in yesterday. But I thought, and it'll be really interesting to see what we decide with going forward, but I thought Job looked really good up front. And while he's good on the ball, like we've seen, especially in that attacking midfield role, I felt like recently he's had a hard time keeping the ball at his feet. He was kind of getting knocked off challenges. Mannix, did you like what you saw from Job up front, and do you think that might be his preferred position moving forward?
Yeah, I thought he did a great job there. I thought he was brilliant. I thought he held the ball up well. I thought he took up good positions. Obviously, he should have had a goal. Like, he did score a goal. He scored a legit goal that was chalked off for no reason. So, as far as I'm concerned, he's had one goal up front and one goal, which isn't bad at all. It does really suck for the likes of Rusin, and I'd say Burstow. I don't rate Burstow at all. He hasn't really shown me anything, but I do like the look of Rusin, and I'd like to see him get a few more games. But if Job keeps playing like that, I think they'll all find it difficult to break into the side.
Well, and it'll give us, I feel like, quite a lot more flexibility as well. We could even look to play him as kind of a almost like in a striking partnership. I just feel like it opens up a lot. We have a lot of the creative kind of attacking midfielder, so to speak, especially with the likes of Pritchard, which we'll get to. But even Adil Ashish, played more of an attacking role yesterday, and I really like Alshish. I think he's just very technical. He's got kind of that little bit of skill that we lack in certain areas, especially from free kicks and set kicks. So anyways, yeah, thought that was really interesting to see Job up front. Definitely was robbed a goal. And nonetheless, we move on to kind of the next big event, which some fans took some joy out of, which I'm not really sure why, but pretty tough tackle from Dan Ballard on Josh Maja, like right towards the kind of the latter stages of the first half, resulted in Maja having to go off. What did you guys see on first reaction? Obviously, it was a yellow card. We have a lot of West Brom fans who were sounding off saying it should have easily been a red. Stokel, we'll start with you. What was your opinions on the Dan Ballard foul, and do you think it should have been more than just a standard yellow?
Well, to begin with, that foul doesn't happen if the referee gives the foul on Dan Neil, where the West Brom player did the high jump over Dan Neil.
Very
and
true.
took him down. If that foul was given, this foul wouldn't have happened, but this foul was horrible. It was truly shocking. He absolutely chops him down, and how he stayed on the pitch and how the liner on the left hand side didn't convince the referee to send him off was I do not know, because that is arguably as bad as Lee Catmull on Jack Colback. That could be an ACL. The way he just scissors him midair, he jumped up to almost his waist and chopped him down. I love those challenges, and I wish and I want Dan Ballard to pull one of those out against Newcastle on any of them. Bruno Kamara's being a player I wouldn't mind it happening to, but no, just those are like horrible tackles, and I never. Although I say I love seeing them because it's funny, the player side of things, it's a really horrible challenge, and it's one of those that could end a career, just with the sheer momentum and size of Dan Ballard going into that, right into the back of the knee, where Josh Maja can't prepare for it, can't tense up or anything. He just comes in and gets hit, and you could see how devastated Maja was with how bad the injury was. It should have been a red. But we were very lucky that he didn't get a straight red, missed 3 games, because I thought he was outstanding yesterday.
Absolutely, and like I said, it just goes back to the whole, the refereeing decisions throughout. One missed call in one aspect can lead to a whole, a game-changing play on the other side, and this was obviously a negative for West Brom, and we don't like to see it either. And I think we have a lot of no one, at least 99% of us are as Mannix puts it, us fans who do have at least half a brain. Anyone who's cheering that, it's just like, what are we doing?
I'd like to jump in there. Anyone who was sitting in the stadium cheering that man going off injured, regardless of how he left our club, anyone going off injured like that is a fool. It's a joke, and how you can sit there as a fan. Like, imagine if that was the other way around.
Right.
We're the first kind of fan base to jump on the backs of other fans who act like that. We have a very reactive fan base, and then to see a certain minority behaving like that, it's disgraceful, and it's actually really upsetting, because that reflects poorly on the whole club and all of us, and not just kind of that minority.
Yep, I think that's well said. So, speedy recovery to Maja. There are times, I wish we still had him. I think he could probably score goals on this team, but unfortunately not now with the injury. But nonetheless, that was kind of the last. There's a few chances on goal, right before the end of the first half. But moving into the second half, and this is really when I finally woke up. The game started at 5:30. I usually even am not awake until roughly about the start of the second half for some of these for us. For me out here, but started out really on the attack. I would say some really good movement down the wings. Patrick Roberts once again was picking the ball up in dangerous spots, really playing it in. But same type of thing, we just couldn't quite find the breakthrough to get in on goal. We had some unbelievably close opportunities, especially close range. The one that really sticks out was a shot on goal. It was a saved out puff right up to Jack Clark, and he tries to slot it into the back corner, and somehow the keeper for West Brom gets a finger on it to keep it out. And not only did we not get the goal there, but the ref didn't even call it as a corner, which I digress. We go on again. But we finally found our first breakthrough with after a couple substitutions, we had Alex Pritchard come on for Adil Ashish in the 62nd minute. And I think, once again, a trend that we see is once Alex Pritchard came on, the game changed for us in a positive. We won a free kick. Alex Pritchard was when we took it. Came in a little bit lower. I don't know exactly where the ball was intended to. Came in a little low and flat, but Dan Ballard was there to put his head in, and a really beautiful directed goal right in the near post to get past the keeper to get up 1-0. So, Mannix, what did you see from that Alex Pritchard goal, and how much of an impact do you think he had since coming on in the second half?
It was really Rolls Royce when he came on. He was brilliant, and I wouldn't be the biggest fan of Pritchard generally, but I thought he was absolutely fantastic when he came on. Another time he comes on and changes the game. We've seen it so often. I actually heard the Sky commentator saying the free kick wasn't that good. I completely disagree. I think it's a good area, and the pace on the ball was perfect. It was a great free kick, and an even better header then by Dan Ballard. Like, it was some finish.
Yep.
To generate that kind of power at that angle and to kind of put it in the corner like that. I don't think many players in the Championship could do it. So, yeah. Great goal. But yeah, just on Alex Pritchard's overall performance, he was incredible. That was one of the best games I've seen him play in a Sunderland shirt, and it was only for half an hour. So,
right.
Yeah.
And Stokel, I would say right before Tony Mowbray came, or left the club, there was a lot of discourse around his subs, his decision making, the Bradley Dack thing, how he was kind of treating Alex Pritchard. Do you think there was some personal reason for Tony Mowbray to not play Pritchard, or do you think it was maybe from the direction of Speakman saying, "Hey, we want to play the young kids first"? What do you kind of attribute Pritchard's role this season, or kind of lack of involvement? Do you think it was more manager, or do you think it came from the higher ups to kind of limit the players of the older variety?
This is a very difficult question because obviously we don't know the real ins and outs of it. But from what I've read and what I've watched and seen, etc., it looks like there could be a bit of both playing a part into it, and because especially in the last couple of press conferences that Tony Mowbray had, he was very much fixated on the idea of developing players first and then winning second, which sounds really weird to me. And that's what I think has happened. Tony Mowbray has become so fixated on developing these young players that it means that he always starts the younger players, and it's sort of left. It's the reason why Danny Bart left, why Alex Pritchard and Bradley Dack are on the bench. Because let's not forget, Alex Pritchard was actually going to leave in summer. And just no deals ended up happening on deadline day. But he looked certain to leave. And then it ended up being him staying. But what I think is happening, because we've still got Corey Evans as well, is the very limited number of older experienced players we've got at the moment. They're acting as more sort of development coaches, and whilst the game time might not be great, what they're doing for the players on the pitch it is great behind the scenes, and you can see that when they come on after the last 30 minutes, 20 minutes. I said it yesterday in my tweet. There's not many better Championship players in the last 20 minutes subbed on Alex Pritchard, because he just knows how to really drag the game by the scruff of the neck and fall into those pockets and just create. It only takes a couple of chances from Alex Pritchard for one of them to go in when he keeps knocking on that door. So that's what I think has happened, is just that Tony Mowbray became so fixated on this idea of developing the young players and the young talent and the whole sort of strategy and philosophy behind Sunderland Football Club and the direction we're going in, that it's meant that these sort of older players are sort of getting pushed to the back in the essence of development and growth and transformation. Yep. But what we saw with Mike Dodds was that he wasn't afraid to change it up. He wasn't afraid to tactically shift things, yep, and make adaptations mid-game. Whereas Tony Mowbray had one system and one system only. And that's something I've said for a while, is that it doesn't matter what players he's got available. He just has a system, and whoever he has to play in that system. Whereas we saw for the first time this season, a manager that has a system and a plan to begin with, but adapts it and tries to tactically outclass the other manager throughout the game, with little changes and shifts and little changes of positions, and allowing sort of freedom for midfielders to step into striker roles and the striker drop back into the centre mid, because you saw Job at times drop back into the CDM position. And sort of Daniel would fill in, or Roberts would go up front, etc. So it's sort of that if Mowbray has a system, so some of the players don't fit into it, and in the essence of developing and talent, growing youth, those players will take a back burner. But when you've got someone who's got a willingness to change and adapt and see the bigger picture, people like Alex Pritchard will come in and they'll be able to be much more instrumental to the game, because I think we only made 2 subs yesterday,
right?
2 or 3. And that's all it took, whereas Mowbray would bring on 4 or 5 at a time and hope something had happened. And that's just the change in the system. Mike Dodds just seemed to know exactly when to bring in and who to bring in. And that this position, it was Alex Pritchard. And that's the role I see him playing for the rest of the season as well, because I don't think in a 90-minute game, Pritchard is as effective.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it was kind of a good time, for Dodds, a really good position for Dodds in a few different ways, and a lot of it was just like you said, it was kind of like a free hit for him. With Tony Mowbray, he's any decision he makes, it's obviously one to kind of appease the owners, right? They're the ones who are writing his checks and keeping him employed. Excuse me. So obviously he's going to be a little bit more cautious with the decisions, or really be more almost like rigid out of spite, being like, oh, this is how you want us to play. You want the young, fine. I'll play the young kids. I'll play this system, and if it doesn't work, then, what, you can't really blame them. Right. And it got to that point. Yeah, it wasn't working. And then for Mike Dodds to come in, he has nothing to lose. Right. Why not change it up? Why not move it around a little bit? Because if Tony had tried, let's say, even the same types of changes yesterday, and the ball doesn't bounce their way and it goes wrong, then you'd have kind of people at his throat, from the other end. So I get the thinking of why Mowbray had set up, the way he had before, but yeah, it was just refreshing to see a little bit of change. And I think Mike Dodds really played it well. Like you said, subs managed well and man managed well. And I think everybody was on the same page, which was really refreshing to see. But so from that goal, we moved on. That goal came in the 69th, or just about the 70th minute. Moved on. Not a lot, some more, couple of yellow cards, couple of substitutions from West Brom. They were really chopping and changing too. Granted they were without their striker, but I was not very impressed with West Brom. I didn't really see anyone on their squad that I thought was causing us any trouble. But nonetheless, we kind of kept battering them for the most part. We had made a substitution in the 81st minute. We had Maenda come on for Patrick Roberts. I thought Roberts put in an excellent shift, and I still really do like what we see in Maenda, even if it is just very limited. But shortly after that, in the 84th minute, ball kind of came to the middle to Alex Pritchard. He had about 2 or 3 defenders kind of close on him, and just found the slimmest of passes right through to a beautiful run by Dan Neal right down the middle. And Dan Neal then kind of plays the keeper, chips him a little bit, and wheels off into the left corner and celebrated a nice 2-0 lead there. So we'll start with Mannix. What did you think of the play from Alex Pritchard to get the goal, and then just talk a little bit about the composure from Dan Neal as well?
Yeah, what a goal! I think one of the West Brom defenders kind of slipped, and I think Neil kind of pounced on that mistake.
It was Gerrard-esque, is what that reminded a little bit of Steven Gerrard.
Then that defender panicked. I think was it Maenda running through? I think it was Maenda kind of sprinting through on the left-hand side with Neil on the right-hand side. I think he was kind of punched over.
Yeah, he was. He was just tackled. Yeah, he was just like formed like rugby tackled. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. But anyway, the referee played the advantage, and Pritchard played a beautiful through ball, perfectly weighted, just outside of the boot. Something that really only Alex Pritchard can do. We don't really have a player like that. Through the legs of the other defender, and Neil was one-on-one with the keeper. He had to score, really, and what a finish. The composure he showed. For someone who doesn't really find himself in goal scoring positions that often, like the only time you see him shoot, he's kind of hoofing it over the bar most of the time from outside of the box. But yeah, what a finish. I think it was just showed excellent composure. And like 6 months ago, I think he would have missed that kind of opportunity. So I think he's developing, and our team's developing now at a good rate.
Yep.
And yeah, that's probably we were lucky to get the second goal when we did, because they answered back. But it was nice to kind of get that bit of comfort at that time, because you always feel with this club something's around the corner. So yeah, a brilliant goal, and brilliantly done by Pritchard.
Yep. And Stokel, I know you're big on the stats and need kind of, a little bit more analytics, but I don't have any stats to back this up, but I'll say it anyways. I feel like a lot of our chances, a lot of our goals obviously have come from the wings and the outside. And I feel like we haven't done well enough to kind of construct goals through the middle. Did you feel like yesterday, because of how we set up, we had quite a lot more room in the middle to operate? And do you think this goal came from really how we were set up with widening out the pitch?
Yeah, 100%. And the past couple of weeks, I mean, our shot conversion in sort of the past 10 games has gone from 13% to 5% shots going into goals, which is a crazy statistic. And I think in the last couple of games or last 6 fixtures or so, we've sort of lost our confidence and lost our sort of way of working the ball and moving it intricately and breaking down those teams. The biggest difference yesterday that allowed the freedom in the midfield was that we didn't over-congest it with dropping a fullback into the centre mid position like we do with Trey Hume or Huggins. What we did is we pushed those two up into the wing positions, and it allowed Jack Clark and Patrick Roberts to drop back and start their runs from sort of the in between the 18-yard box and the halfway line. So from deep, and what they do is they carry it and carry it and carry it. Because their fullbacks were occupied by our fullbacks on the wings. And it just allowed us to overload that midfield constantly. And sort of another thing that I picked up yesterday was that our desire and ability to win the second and third balls yesterday was incredible. And that's something we've been losing a lot recently. Those 50-50 battles for second and third balls have always seemed to drop to the opposition, and we've not really been as eager to win those balls back. But that's exactly what happened for our goal yesterday. Is their player took a bad touch and slipped, and we pounced on it. We didn't just hesitate and wait or take a second to think about what we do next. Pritchard just went, and by that time we overloaded again. So I think what must have been working on in training is just how to overload effectively, and how to really outnumber the defenders and open them up, because we kept switching the play yesterday from left wing to right wing, and we just keep shuffling, and then what we'd have is Jack Clark or Patrick Roberts would then take his decision to to make a run for past 3 or 4 players, play that ball down the channel, and then whip it back in, or we'd they'd play a clever ball into the middle, and that was largely helped by Job as well. Because one thing that I noticed was Job was making runs that Rusin makes, and no other striker does make. He was always trying to play on that centre back, spin off him and play him behind, and that meant that one of their centre backs was always dragged out of position because of those runs that made, and that allowed the freedom for Al-Shish or Pritchard or Clark or Roberts, whoever was in that midfield, to really just drive into that space again. So I think if this is how we're playing whilst Mike Dodds is in charge, we'll see a lot more overloading in the box, and a lot more sort of being direct and dynamic rather than trying to be intricate and play 50, 60, 70 passes in one attack. Yep. It'll be very much right. We shuffle the wings a couple of times, we hit it to Roberts or Clark, and then we be direct and we drive at them, and we make something happen. Rather than trying to walk into the goal, which was so nice to see, because it just, that speed in transition, and that just like burst of pace that we've missed because we've been trying to walk into the back of the net. It's just something we've been crying out for, is that our transitions are too slow. I think SAFC Highlights put out a brilliant video where he mentioned this, was that the time it takes for us to get from our box to their box was incredibly slow. Whereas yesterday it was much quicker and much more faster, with sort of more desire, more eager to get into those attacking positions. And I thought we created quite a few really good chances. Obviously, Job's chance came from that sort of play. We had Clark's chance came from that sort of play. There were a couple of others that happened, and obviously our second goal. So I think That was just a Mike Dodds masterclass, and you saw him on the pitch. He was just every time you saw the West Brom manager make a change, Mike Dodds was shouting to counteract that. Mike Dodds was playing chess with their manager, and I thought that was so cool to see that we had a manager or a coach that really took the game to that sort of level.
Yep, you can tell what it meant to him, and as we kind of wrap up the second half, a couple yellow cards, a couple tough fouls, some interesting decisions, but shortly after going up 2-0, we did concede a nice play really down the left wing. The ball ended up off the head of Brandon Thomas Asante. The assist was by Pippa, who was a pretty good player from what I saw, but yeah, nice ball in. Thomas Asante was kind of right in between. Sam was right between 09 and I believe it was Dan Ballard, and just kind of won the header there. A lot of people are kind of digging out 09 for that, and also digging out 09 shortly after for making somewhat of a controversial tackle in the box. I credit to the ref for not giving it, because it was a little bit soft, but 09 I think got away with one there, because I think another ref on another day could possibly give him a pen. That would have been in the very dying moments of the game, really. So maybe lucky to get out of there, with all 3 points. But nonetheless, I think on the course of play, a very well earned 3 points and back into the playoffs. All the doom and gloom. We have a lot of sometimes negative opinions in our fan base, but you got to be looking at this, and as like we've kind of touched on before, absolutely over the moon for Mike Dodds to get this first win, and I think an extremely important 3 points as we kind of look to take these next steps, which is finding the next manager. So we'll discuss briefly on that, gentlemen. So after Sunderland gets the 3 points, now into the playoff spot, that should make us quite an appealing offer for just about anyone that that we are looking to. But the big names we're hearing right now, obviously we hear the will still. I'm a little bit less convinced that that's going to happen. But some of the other managers that are kind of popping up there, Mannix, has there been any that have stood out to you really, or any other than Will Still, unless you're all on the Will Still hype train?
I'm absolutely on the hype train. I don't think it's very likely. I can't see why he would. He has a secure job in a good league, and he's doing a great job there. Like we're all familiar with the meme of how he didn't have his coaching license and they had to pay a fine every time he managed them. Yeah, I'd love to see it happen. I don't see it happening. I think Julian Sablé was another name thrown out. If I'm probably butchered that pronunciation.
Yep.
He's the assistant at Nice. I can't say I know much about him, but if he's young and he's trendy and he fits the model, I back KLD to the hills. I can't see him making a hatch of disappointment. I actually don't think I think he's only ever appointed managers that have brought us in an upward trajectory, and I can't see that trend ending anytime soon.
Yep.
I've seen Heckenbottom mentioned as well. I wouldn't like to see that. I wouldn't be too high on that, but I also don't really see that happen. I can see it just being some foreign guy that we've never heard of.
Yeah.
Genuine, just someone from Lithuania who's about 45 and he ends up being an Alex Ferguson regen.
I love it. Stokel, do you think Mike Dodds, do you think we should consider Mike Dodds throwing his hat in the ring here? Throwing his name in the ring.
Well, I mean, this is his audition, isn't it? Really. I think depending on how Leeds goes, because the recruitment timetable that they've got is normally is roughly 12 days from scoping to actually negotiating the contracts and signing the contracts. So I think this is his audition, but what it allows is KLD and Christian Speakman can see that Mike Dodds has the capacity and the ability to keep this thing ticking over whilst they make this next decision right. Because if Mike Dodds tactically is how he is against Leeds, how he was against West Brom, then I think they'll be very comfortable with taking that slightly longer to really make sure that the decision's right. At this stage of the season, it looks like first and second are way off the target, and even third and fourth are starting to break away considerably. So this season is about trying to get fifth and sixth, which with the best of the rest sort of teams, it's not as critical that we get someone in straight away. We just need to make sure that the decision is right, so that A, we either make the playoffs this year, or B, it gives us a strong point to go into next season with and really push for those automatic places. So Mike Dodds could well be given a run of 5-6 games or even longer if they can't get the manager they want, or the contracts and the finances don't go well. But this is his audition. This is his ability to show the people above that why waste your money trying to find someone and hire someone when.
Yep.
Look, I know the players and I know how to get the best out of them. Look what he did for Jude Bellingham. Look what he's doing for Job. He can really develop players and turn them into world-class superstars. Well, I mean, I say that he's only done that once, but
not bad.
But it's that sort of thing that he could take someone from nothing and turn them into something, and that's what this team needs. Especially the direction we're going. He's young, he's promising. He was very tactical, very analytical yesterday against West Brom. So I mean, that's exactly what the board are looking for.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be shocked to see him given a longer stint. I don't know how I'd feel about him getting the whole stint because he's so untested. He's very untested. Even at under 23 level, he wasn't great. Their results weren't great. So that's all we've got to go off.
Yeah, and still worth keeping around though, because like you said, I think the rapport that he has with the players and the respect and the time that he's put in, and yeah, no, I
Absolutely.
like we mentioned, I just couldn't be happier, to see him get that win, because the last time he was in charge was in the most unideal of circumstances, and I think that's what's different. And really, with KLD and the board, they haven't gotten a coach hire wrong. Granted, they haven't had very many, but they've had more than I would say a lot of clubs. But even with the Alex Neil appointment, I mean that had to be. I mean, we were in the most dire of dire straits at that point of missing the playoffs, and we really had to get up that year. Looking back, it would have just been an absolute disaster. And the Alex Neil hire was good. Obviously, it got us to where we needed to be. And then following up with Tony Mowbray, I think Mowbray came in at the absolute perfect time and probably left, maybe not at the perfect time, but left at a reasonable time to now make this next decision. And so, yeah, I got all the time in the world really with the club at the moment and the front office. I've seen a lot of frustrations already and people really clamoring. And I don't think the goal, despite what they said, I don't think the goal is necessarily promotion, so to speak. Yeah, as ridiculous as that sounds, that's always the hope, right? The hope is, yes, we want to get promoted, but I don't think it's necessarily even in the timeline yet. Which is fine, because I still think we have so much to figure out off the pitch. I think on the pitch is flying, but if we really want to capitalize when we do get the chance to go up, and granted it's never given, but I still think we have so much to figure out on the kind of the off the pitch things as far as merchandising and ticketing before really giving it a good go against the likes of Newcastle in the Premier League, which is where we'll wrap it up. We had a nice little FA Cup draw, didn't we, lads? So it'll be my first real opportunity to watch. I think we had some of our youth teams play against Newcastle and things like that, but it'll be really my first Tyne-Wear derby for sure to be able to watch. And so we'll start with Mannix. What are you looking forward to for this? We're still quite a few weeks out, but what are you looking forward to with this draw? Or what was your initial reaction when we drew Newcastle?
My initial reaction was kind of, oh shit. That's crazy. And then I was like, oh shit, they're actually really good.
Right.
But I'm actually, the closer it gets, the more I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great day. It's a free hit for us, no matter what way you want to see it. We will be getting pelters on Twitter if they win. But sure. What about it? Like we're the championship club and they're a Saudi club at the end of the day. I see we're in between two big games for them. I think it's City and Liverpool, and they also have the Champions League around that time as well. So they may have a depleted squad, and look, anything can happen in an FA Cup game. So
Yep.
I'll go in with hope more so than confidence. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a good day generally.
Yeah.
So
And
that's it.
Stoko, you'll be there, I'm sure, in attendance.
Absolutely. I've been to most derbies since I was 6 years old. So I always love these ones. But yeah, I actually gasped when they pulled the name out the hat. They pulled the 27 out, and I was like, "Who is that?" They said Newcastle, and I gasped, an audible gasp as well. I was shocked, and the first thing I was like was, as Manic said, was like, "Oh shit," because they're not they're not that Mike Ashley relegation scrappy shitty team anymore. They are Eddie Howe is truly at the wheel for them. And that's what's more exciting about it. It's sort of a similar feeling to when we had Arsenal under Lee Johnson. It's just that ability that we could just go and do whatever we want there. We could go and just show exactly what we're about. And as Manic said, we lose, I'll be absolutely fucking devastated. Sorry for the swearing, but I'll be devastated. But we never expected to win, and we'll just get a bit of banter from our mates and on Twitter, etc. But if they lose, my God, I can't wait to see the seeds. I've already been told that my best friend is blocking me for a month because he knows how much I like fishing in for Newcastle.
I love it.
And putting the bait in. So I'm just waiting and ready for it, and I just can't wait to see it. I mean, it's one of those. It's the top three biggest football matches in the UK, and it's something that's gone silent over the last 8 years because it's not happened. So I just can't wait for the Northeast to be put back onto the map, truly, and for this a game of this size to really happen in the cup. It's anything can happen, as Manic said. I just can't fucking wait.
Would you take a win over Newcastle if it meant we missed the playoffs?
I'd take 21st in the league if it meant Newcastle.
Oh, I love it. No, it's I'm so excited for you. Like I said, I've heard of obviously all the lore, so to speak, of this derby, and especially being at home. I think it's gonna be fantastic. And I was telling Mannix before I jumped on. My goal originally, I've been out for one game so far. It was like Phil Parkinson's first game in charge of Sunderland at home versus Tranmere. So obviously I'd love to get back. And I always said, the next time we play Newcastle, I'll be back. And then this game got drawn. I was like, well, I don't think it'll be this. I don't think it'll be this one. So I'll wait for obviously when we're back in the Prem. But I'm excited for that. But nonetheless, before then, we have quite a lot of games. So our next game up for Mike Dodds' Army, who's so we think it's going to be Mike Dodds, is going to be Leeds. I believe it's Leeds. Leeds at home.
Leeds at home.
Yep, on Tuesday. Quick, we'll just go predictions for that. Mannix, what is your prediction for Mike Dodds? Can he get two on the bounce here and really start riding the ship?
Before I watched the West Brom game and I saw the result, I would have thought we were going to lose, but I'm quietly confident now. I think we can pull out performance out of the bag. I'm going to go 2-0 Dodds masterclass, and I think that Roosting's going to get his first goal.
Oh, I love it. Stoko, same with you. I think Leeds is good. They got speed, size. Ruder, Somerville, lots of danger. But yeah, what do you see? What do you see from this match on Tuesday?
They've got a very good team. They've got Premier League players. They've got Sinisterra. They've got pace. They got that dynamic ability, but also the ability to play sort of intricately. It's sort of similar to us. They play very similar to us, just with a lot more pace. I think there's going to be goals in this. I can't see this being a 1-0 or a 2-0. I think it'll be like a 3-2, a 4-2, a 4-1. I don't know which way it's going to go. I just know there's going to be goals. I mean, Leeds is a huge game anyway. Two northern clubs. It's like similar to playing Borough, really. So I just think there's going to be goals, and it's going to be a great game to watch for a neutral fan. But for us, it could either be horrible or it could be arguably performance of the season. It's Jack Clark's old team as well, so he'll want to
and Huggins. And Huggins.
Huggins and Clark. Yeah, so they'll both want to prove a point as to why they should have made it at Leeds. And I'm very excited to see that Archie Gray versus Jack Clark battle as well, because Archie Gray is a fantastic footballer at fullback. So I think that'll be very interesting to watch as well. So I'm just really looking forward to it.
Yeah, Archie Gray is like what, 17? He had assists last game. Yeah. God, I mean, you'd love to see someone like him and like Chris Riggs, kind of. God, it's such good young talent coming through the championship right now. It just makes it fun to watch, and that's why, going back to it, I just have so much time still, even for this division. I think it's just been, compared to League One, obviously it's just miles away, but I love it. But nonetheless, good victory, gentlemen. Thank you, both Dans. Thank you for joining me on the day after both Dans score for us. So I appreciate you guys jumping on, but we will be back hopefully next week to review the possibly a new coach, possibly a win over Leeds, and like I said, it'll be me through probably the end of the year. So if you hate Americans, I don't know what to tell you. But nonetheless, gentlemen, thanks for joining. And this has been Mackem in the Middle, and we will be back next week.
That's all, folks.